Welcome to today's episode. I am delighted, thrilled, super excited to have Lesley Ronaldson here, who has been, I guess in our circle, the world of SaaS for a while now, but we're also very proud to be working with Gong and partners of Gong. And today we're going to dig into all things sales excellence, which feels like a very, very broad topic with a big question mark around it. But before we do that, Leslie, I'll hand over to you to intro yourself because I know I won't do a good enough job.
Thank you so much, Rory. And finally, delighted to be in front of you doing this podcast. I know we've been in each other's orbit for a while, as we've been assessing, what tools to use and Trumpet. So delighted to be doing this with you today. So I don't know, do you want the background or do you want like the shortened version, because it's a lot? But I'll give you the quick version. So I started my career in the late 90s, same as when we launched Salesforce. I joined Dell on my 21st birthday and I was absolutely hooked. I knew that was it for me. I wanted to be in sales. I spent about 15 years there, encompassing 2 foreign assignments. I worked in India in 2004 when we opened up our first call center, which was an incredible experience in Hyderabad. And then I also spent a couple of years in Bratislava, where I led our German team for Dell, which was incredible. I would say anyone listening, if you ever get a chance to travel to another region for your job, do it. It is the best thing I've ever done. And you also experience so many cultures and on the company dime. I then came back to Dell and I decided, something, I need to be a stakeholder for a while. I think it was important for me to understand the full business, not just as a seller. So I took over the software and peripherals for Dell. That was managing everything from Microsoft to all our vendor partnerships to things like laptops, mice, printers, cables. There was so much in that kind of remit. And there I really understood how to work better with people and to really think, it isn't always about the seller. There's so much more that goes on behind the scenes, because I think salespeople can be a little bit pushy. And then in and around 2014, LinkedIn approached me and they were doing the landing team for Sales Navigator. And they were saying, hey, it's a startup within a startup. And I just thought, wow, what an opportunity to learn. So I left Dell, and it was, after a long time, I felt I'd grown up there. But I will tell you that when I got to LinkedIn, I learned some really, really, really great lessons. And they've stood to me, I think, in my leadership and definitely in my life. So seek to understand is one of them. Lead with empathy. And I think my favorite one, every interaction with an employee should be a positive experience, even if you're delivering disappointing news. And I think side note there, I will never say to somebody, I have bad news for you. They didn't get a job or I'm taking an account. I'll say I have disappointing news. Then I had a mentor tell me, I've become a one-trick pony and I needed to kind of get into the startup world. So in 2020, I left LinkedIn just as the world closed for COVID. I moved into a role and it was really hard. I love being with people. I thrive off other people's energy. I'm in this office every day. We are hybrid, but for me, it's a choice. I want to be here every day. So I moved into a startup and I learned a ton. I then went to Asana. I'm a huge fan of the platform. So shout out to Asana. We power it. EMEA is powered off Asana here. So I was in Asana, really happy, great team. And then Gong reached out and I was like, wow. And it was the VP role at the time. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for VP. And I had said to them, something, can you come back to me when the VP hires her number 2? And they hired a lady, Wendy Harris. She built out EMEA. And then she came to me in 2022 saying, yeah, I'm building out the team. So came in, worked under her. She moved on to bigger and better things. And then I stepped up to VP. So there's a lesson there for me. I'm glad I listened to, not taking the role. I'm glad I waited. And I really think my whole experience, and I'm in tech like over 20, don't want to give my age away, but over 26, 27 years, is that culture eats strategy. I don't expect someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself. I demo the product. I demo it 3-4 times a week. And just like you, Rory, you're so hands-on with your team. I have a really firm but fair approach. I care deeply about my team's personal lives. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and Leaders Eat Last. Like I don't, like, there's no royalty here. I don't have an office. I sit on the floor. I eat lunch with the guys on the couches. I just want to recognize, I think it's important as a leader that the shadow that you cast, it creates the culture and the vibe on the floor. And I want to make sure that everyone's coming in here happy and that they can be their authentic self. And finally, speak without negative consequence. Like I have an open door policy. There's nothing you can't say to me that will offend me. Although I'm not easily offended. That's quite a long intro, and I know it is, but it is nearly 3 decades worth of experience.
Yeah, but I mean, huge kudos to an incredible journey. I think the thing that really stood out to me there was the self-awareness. It's amazing to like work for those logos and those companies and learn so much, but also know when to slow down before speeding up. I think a lot of people go title chasing and like rush through their career, but actually that, being aware of where you're at and what you need is pretty unique.
You're right. When I got the VP role, honestly, it was an amazing day. But I remember thinking it's taken me 26 years to get here. There's some people that get VP within 10, and good for them. But for me, there was times where I took a break. I mean, I started a family, and I think it's important that it's peaks and troughs, right? It's you can step out, and personal things will happen, and life will happen. But to stay in your lane, and I have my blinkers on. I don't really look at people's LinkedIn profiles. Someone gets promoted, good for them. I'm not like, what? He's 25 and he's a founder. Good for them. Good for them. I wish them the best of luck. I'm going to focus on me.
Yeah. I can also say this kind of mindset that you've got, it's reflected in the floor at Gong. Having been in your office, like every rep that I've met, they are all their authentic selves. And it's actually pretty inspiring for a company like us and a founder like myself to get into that kind of environment and see that energy and how everyone clicks and collaborates. So huge shout out.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the intro. And again, congrats on the journey so far. So as we dig into all things sales excellence, I'd love to hear if you could share some specific strategies that you've used to build and maintain a high performing sales team, which every leader wants.
Of course. I mean, that's nirvana. So I think it's an obvious question. There's two pieces here: how you build the team and how you maintain the team. I think they require a combination of so many things, like the right people and goals and stuff, but I'll break it down to some points. So hiring and onboarding, this is your foundation, right? It's the most important thing. We hired 57 people last year in Gong, 67 if you include the 10 we hired in APAC in our Singapore office. And it started with our incredible TA team. We kept standards really high. Now I know I may have annoyed a lot of people with that, but if it was not a hell yeah, it was a hell no. We were really clear what we wanted to hire. We were really clear what we were looking for. We used a really good balance of interviewees. So there was RevOps, sales, and of course we used peer interviews because they're the people that are going to be working with these people that you hire. And I do the last interview for every person that comes in this door. It's a kind of culture fit interview. I don't ask them about the role or selling or experience. It's more to get to know them. And I ask very specific questions, which I'm not going to give away because I'm still interviewing, but it gives me a really good lens on the person and what kind of values they have and how they'd fit it in the office. And I can say, we haven't got it wrong yet. So we've been really, really lucky. I think when you do then hire these people, and it's expensive, right? Hiring people and paying your TA team as well. You've got to have a programmatic onboarding. We are really lucky here in Gong. We've hired an incredible lady, Fiona, to do our enablement. This is the third company her and I have worked in together. We've known each other 20 plus years, so we are very aligned. Clear 60, 90 days. There's benchmarks, hands-on training. I know it sounds really obvious, but we always pair new hires with top performers on the floor or, for faster ramp. And I also do this when I'm interviewing somebody. So let's pretend I'm interviewing you. I would say, he really reminds me of insert name. So I'm going to say Dave Sherry, for example. You do remind me of Dave Sherry. He's one of our incredible managers here. And you sell like Dave Sherry and your style is like Dave Sherry. So when you come in here, if I can't pair you with him, I will direct you to listen to his calls and how he sells. I think sales is sometimes like acting, right? There's your lines, do your play, but it's really it's not authentic if you're doing someone else's pitch. So I wouldn't say you sell like, someone else. It doesn't really work. And you can also confuse somebody who's early in their career by saying, listen to all our top sellers. Absolutely not. Listen to the people that I know you're most like, or your style, or we've got a couple of introverts that are amazing sellers. We've got people who are storytellers, people who are like me, very high energy, high excite. So that is something that's worked really well here. Then obviously, you get into the performance. So it's a sales process. I mean, I am uber organized, maniacal, annoying. We have a very tight manager operating rhythm here at Gong, which is being defined from our RevOps. It's global, it's top down, it's adhered to. We've got playbooks, coaching, we do pipeline weeks, there's a forecasting cadence, data-driven decisions. We use Gong for everything, like everything. I'm constantly communicating. In fact, I think I might over-communicate to EMEA. All hands, QBRs, at the end of month, the last 3 days, we do huddles in the morning, the end of quarter, the last 5 days. We are constantly talking about what's important. We were reminding them of the company priority. So we have our 5 company priorities. And what does that mean for EMEA? What does it mean for a number? Where are we tracking? What do we need? So it's constant. We have an incredible office manager here who's also my EA. And she'll say to me, hey, what's front of mind for you? And then she runs decks. And I'm in a room now, and on the screen, it'll be rotating what's front of mind. So the screen in front of me at the moment is showing our priorities, but before that was saying new hires starting. So I'm like, oh, these people are starting. So there's a lot of, constant communication here. And then I think my favorite one, or my favorite two, is the leadership team. So I'm in tech a while, but I will tell you, I don't know it all. But I tend to surround myself with brilliant people who are really strong in the areas that I'm not. So you've probably guessed I'm really high. I'm high excite and I'm high execute, but I wouldn't be great on I'm not high explore and I'm not really high examine. I will do it. I will explore, I will examine, but it's not where my natural tendencies go. So I have some incredible leaders on my team who can do that, and they do it much better than I can. I do think it starts at me and the team. And I said this phrase earlier on about the shadow we cast. We can spend 1 hour in a room on a really contentious decision, and it's in the room that I'm in. We will debate and commit. And when we leave that room, we do not bring that energy onto the floor. Humans are really perceptive, and there can be a vibe, or did you just have around that room? So we will be in that room, we'll have the conversation, and we will walk out and we bring that energy back up, because it creates the whole environment. And then culture, we touched on it earlier on. I would say I am biased, but I think the culture here is electric. Sales floor is high energy, but we do have, quiet spaces for engineers. Or we have an engineering team of about 15 out of Dublin, and also some of the folks want to do deep thinking. So the room is actually behind me. It's the other half of the office, and I can see in there I can actually see some of the A's that their heads down. They're actually tiering books at the moment. We're in a new year, so they're kind of getting in there. We have a huge win as a team mentality. We celebrate every milestone by ringing. Obviously we're going to hit a huge gong. There's no surprises there, but it's important for us to celebrate everything. So big deals, first deals, SDRs getting promoted, engagements. Like I say this all the time, but I do think being in the office is really the difference between us and other companies. And I do look at LinkedIn and the commentary on remote work is important, and I don't want to be commuting and sitting in a car, and my life is important. And I get it, like everyone's different. But for me, and I watch everything. I love watching that team interact with each other. Like I can see someone struggling with a deal, or when you get that big deal, you're like, it's gonna get me to my quarter, and you get the news that it's a no. I love watching someone walk over, put their arm around that person, say, hey, we go for a coffee, or let's go for let's go out or let's go to a room and chat through that. There's nothing worse than being at home and getting that information or disappointing news. I won't say bad, disappointing news, and then you're going downstairs to the kitchen. You're just on your own. Like, I just don't think that's good for people. I love seeing this group, push each other to win, celebrate the wins, but also be there for each other when things aren't going well. It's really important to me. I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I saw it on the floor. I think that the key takeaway for me there is to have a high performing team, you need to have the right mindset within the team, but also you need to create an environment where they collaborate, they feel they're winning as a team, they're moving forward as a team, they've got transparency with everything that's happening. You kind of said that operating rhythm of, sharing numbers and updates and forecasts and everything like that. And I think sales is a numbers game, but everyone feeling like accountable and part of it and contributing to reaching those milestones, you thrive on those wins. It's the best days when you see, when you get to smash that gong. And what about that?
I just want to put on that point. I want to be really conscious that we're not all about the sellers here, because it's a big org I run. When some of the engineers do new coding, we're like, hit the gong. When our TA team hired that really tricky Dutch hire, we're like, hit the gong. Like, we do celebrate things that are important within other people's orgs. It's not all about the number.
I love that.
You wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, Rory. I wouldn't have said that. I would have been like, it's all about the number. Sales are the most important, but not anymore. Not anymore.
Nice. That's refreshing to hear. I'm glad. And then with that, so when you think about your team, or teams that you've managed, what are the indicators for anyone listening, whether it's a founder of an early stage startup, a scale up, a GM, someone who's just taking on a new team? What are the indicators that you've seen with reps who are just consistently high performers?
Like so my head will all automatically goes to data here, and I am going to cover that off. But I do think you got to hire someone who is just so hungry for the role. You want that kind of tenacity and resilience and coachability, right? So that's the first thing. I think I was going to say it goes without saying, but I just want to point that out. For me, then there is hitting quota. That's the obvious one, but there's a lot of indicators that show me that they're going to be a high performing team. So the first one is pipeline. Pipeline is lifeline. I am obsessed with it, maniacal about it, something I look at every day. I look at pipeline creation. I look at the rule of coverage. So 4 to 5x quality pipeline coverage of your target. I think you need to be really careful with pipeline. So you can run incentives on pipeline, but then if you ask for pipeline, you're going to get it, but they need to be realistic opportunities. Another trap with pipeline is I could say, all right, I need 1 million this week in pipeline, and we get it. But in the back end, we lost or closed, disengaged 400K. So really net for net, it's only 600. So it's looking at what you're losing on the other end. Again, I'm going to call out Gong here. It does a really good job of doing that, but that's really important. Yes, you had a great week last week. Seller A creating 100K worth of pipeline, but you closed disengaged 2 your 50K deal. So really you've gained nothing. And a lot of people don't do that. Forecast accuracy for sure. For me, it's really important. We're actually measured on our accuracy here at Gong. It's one of my KPIs. We have a 10% swing. I'm happy to say I'm in around 6 at the moment, and I hope it stays there. Thanks to Gong, it's pretty solid. But in my opinion, it's just as bad as to forecast a deal that you never saw, then missed your call. So the AE should be really close to their deals and know what's happening and be able to have a predictable business as well. There's nothing worse than, if you were asking your sales team, what are we closing this quarter, and everyone to give you a number and then that number not happen, it doesn't fill you with confidence. I think the inputs are important too, obviously. So activity levels like emails, calls. Last year in Gong, we actually did a huge survey of our top performers. And our top performers averaged 350 hours worth of customer time. So on customer calls, which is incredible. And when our top sellers talked about customer outcomes, so what are you trying to solve? They had a 2x higher average deal size, 2x higher close rate, a 4x higher average deal size, and an 8% lower percentage in churn. So we realize in Gong that, you need to also be having proper conversation. So yeah, all the emails, all the calls, all the hours, great. That's like an indicator. But what are you speaking about is even more important. One of my favorites, it's quite an American phrase, with jersey matching. So the bigger the deal, the more Gong folk should be in the deal. So if any of our deals have a VP of sales as a decision maker, I will say to the team, bring me in. And I will demo them the product as how I use it, because I don't use Gong the same way an AE would use it or a CS would use it. We also bring in professional services and customer success. And that's worked really well for us. That's a muscle I would say we nailed last year. In fact, every time I do a deal review, I've had to change the meeting room. So it was a meeting room of 3, 4, and now it's in this room, which fits 10, because in the large deal reviews now is solution engineering, customer success, professional services, center of excellence. Sometimes we have, a seller that's come from a competitive company to give their insight. I'm in the room if there's a VP. We might have Fiona enablement. We might have Jerry if there's RevOps. So I love that the bigger the deal, the more of us that are on it, and we're all over the stakeholders. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of a shout out here. I think tight account plans is really important. So thanks to Trumpet, we have been enabled to not only are we giving our customers a really good buying experience, but we have the right folks in seat to help close the deal. Just to my point there on the jersey matching, it's also helped the team streamline their outreach and personalized interactions. So we're actually accelerating our deal cycles. We've been much tighter on looking at that stakeholder map. So before, you would have had sellers assuming personas in the deal, and then with the help of Trumpet and looking at that stakeholder mapping, I could say, guys, you've missed that person here. They're either a champion or a blocker, or sometimes, they could be the signer. So that's been really, really helpful. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
Appreciate the shout out on our side, but I'm going to throw it back to you, because I've seen Gong organizations. We use Gong, it's incredible. But how do you track and think and measure these indicators at a rep level? Like how can other people benefit from Gong in the day to day?
Yeah, I mean, again, I really want to be conscious that I'm not giving you the heavy sales pitch. So I'll start from the top. So pipeline creation, all our forecast boards show X coverage. It actually says your target for the quarter, where you are quarter to date percentage wise, and how much pipeline coverage you have. And this is amazing, right? So buy by Excel sheets and buy by looking at a CRM. Then we have the back end of the analytics portion. So I can see pipeline movements and change in value. So just to my previous point, I can look at an analytics part of Gong, open up, show me my pipeline behavior for the last pick a time. So I'll say the last 2 weeks, and it will say your team has created 200K, just to keep the numbers rounded. However, these deals changed in size. They went up. These deals went down. These are closed lost. These were pushed into next quarter, or sometimes these are pulled in from next quarter. So it's good for me to see an understanding of movements in my pipeline and patterns of behavior. So we all have the sales reps that get these big deals and go, oh, I'm going to put it in for 20K because I don't want all eyes on me. And then the day the deal closes, it's like 80K. And also the deals that are constantly being pushed into next quarter, I like to keep an eye on them as well. I think from a forecast accuracy perspective, again, it's in the analytics part in Gong. So I can see trends in forecast accuracy through to my director, to their frontline managers, and then to individual contributors. So this enables me to have a really meaningful forecast review, and pretty quick as well. I would say I spend 30 minutes every Monday with each director, and they're running like regions of my business. So I've got an international team, the enterprise team, mid-market team, commercial team. And I can look at it and say, so your team roll up, your team, or you're calling 500K, but Gong is using the AI and all the deals and the interactions is telling me it's 800K. So I know they're sandbagging straight away, or it could be the other way around. So it's a great way to kind of pressure check reality, as we say here. Then for activity levels, again, there's team insights within Gong, which will enable me to drill down on individual behaviors. So I can look at call volume, call duration, talk ratios. So if this was a Gong recorded call, I would be doing really badly because I feel I'm talking a lot. We can also look at topics. We have a beautiful feature called Smart Trackers, and Smart Trackers enables you to boil concepts out of conversation. So I can give you an example. Let's pretend I was selling to you and you said, hey, where are you based? And I said, oh, I'm in Dublin. And you say, oh, what's the price of a pint over there? And I say, oh, it's expensive. It's nearly €12 now. And another platform would say price was discussed on the call. This is a good indicator. Gong will say price was discussed on a call, but it has nothing to do with the deal. Don't count it. So using smart trackers, I can look at any topic I want. I have smart trackers across EMEA for everything, like every topic you can imagine, outcomes, next steps, personas. We have smart trackers on every letter in Medic, smart trackers for competitors. So a recent example, the French team said to me, hey, there's a little competitor. It's a bit of an ankle biter. We think it's coming, it's going to be something that we should focus on. I was like, really? All I had to do, set up a smart tracker. Gong told me after 3 weeks how many times it had come up on calls. I could take all those calls, put it in a snippet database, the snippets in like a little database of snippets, send it to my product marketing team and say, hey, I think this could be an issue. They had a look at it. They made us a battle card. Our enablement team listened to some of the calls, helped the team how to, counteract when they come up on the call. So then we had them ready to go. So I love that part of Gong. I feel it helps me find gold within the deals. And then the last piece, again, I keep on with the jersey matching, but the deal boards enable me to view deals where we're engaging with prospects and how often. And I can also see warnings which says, we're not multi-threaded here, or you're not at C-suite or director plus. So again, really helpful in deal reviews to say, Gong is telling me you're only speaking to 2 people and they're not director plus. And we know typically in this space, you need to be speaking to an insert persona. So helps us see around corners. It mitigates risks. It does everything really.
And with that, I think that's how you enable sales excellence. And that's not just a plug to Gong, but like this visibility, this seeing around the corners, and this like true modern enablement, like going really deep into the data and unpicking, what was actually discussed is incredibly powerful. And I think when you've got control on a deal, when you've got consistency, when you've got clarity in what's happening, that's when you have confidence. And when you have true confidence that's backed up and justified, that's when you
100%.
can be excellent.
100%. Like you can't manage what you can't measure. And also, I do think you can be really subjective when it comes to managing people. So I would always say to the team on the floor, like our management style should be one size fits one, right? Situational leadership. You can't take 100 reps off the floor to enable them on insert something. You use the data to say, the data tells me on that floor, 80% of the team need to work on economic, like finding the economic buyer. 20% are okay, 5% are incredible at it. Let's ask those 5% what they're doing, use the smart tracker, get the call examples, bring the 80% into the room. So like even that's something that's simple, but it's so obvious. When I came to Gong, I was like, why is everyone not doing this? Why are we wasting salespeople's time? We should be using data and understanding what everybody has individual needs and taking the pocket of those individuals, and then the people that do it brilliantly, using that tribal knowledge and parsing it across. And I think that's another reason why the culture here is so good, because everyone is learning from each other. And I'm not arrogant. We don't have everything sorted. You know, there's still lots of things we could do better. Although we're doing them pretty well, but there's still lots of things we can improve on. But we're all learning from each other, and the best reps are helping. Like I watched my AEs last year on board. There was 8 SDRs we moved into the AE world, and I watched them on board with the AEs teaching them. And those 8 SDRs have had an incredible year. In fact, the majority of them are going to club. And I'd say it's because of just being in office and listening to each other, and the power of Gong, knowing what good looks like and being able to listen to it and using data.
Yeah. I had a customer of ours, actually, they were speaking about Gong the other day, and this concept of turning B players into A players, like getting that visibility. And it's so true. How do you get, because like there is no perfect seller. There's so many things that I do
No.
wrong, and
Yeah.
there's so many things that the team do better than me. So how do we know what everyone's strengths are and help
Yes.
share that knowledge?
Yeah. I love that. And I think when I look on the floor, there's some people who are incredible at locking in next steps, some people who are master negotiators. And I love when there's someone, so when we do the stand-ups in the mornings at the end of the month, so we'd one this morning, and someone was giving an update on a deal, and I was like, are you committing it? But, and we're kind of a bit of banter, and they said, I don't know, I'm up against a tricky legal persona. And someone else said, oh, what, like, give me what's going on. And they gave the overview, and another person chimed in and said, oh, I had that. Let me send the snippet of my call. Here's what legal told me to say. And I'm like, it's a thing of beauty to watch it. And I don't really have to give input, right? Because like the pupils have become the teachers. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
So let's say Gong's ripped out tomorrow, or you didn't have Gong. Let's hope that never ever happens. It's here forever. But going through, from Dell to LinkedIn to Sana to Gong now, how do you think sales excellence has evolved? Because I think it was very different 10, 20 years ago. And now the modern seller, it's even in the last 5 years, just since the pandemic, like everything's changed. So what do you think? Yeah, it's the biggest shift.
Like, I think because I do feel like a bit of a granny. Like I'm in tech for so long. As I said, I started in tech the year Salesforce was launched. So I grew up in Salesforce. But there's a lot. I'll probably start. So when I think about where I started, we were heavily focused on relationship selling and cold calling. I only sold to the UK at that time for Dell. A lot of in-person meetings and mass emails. And I remember in the early days being in a conference room with our director, head of marketing director, and we were putting brand new white shirts into boxes, and we were writing handwritten cards for C-suite in the UK. And I remember thinking, I think now that kind of works again a little bit now, but like Sendoza and stuff do it for you. But I remember thinking at the time, this is wild, like the manpower, and we didn't really get much from it. Then when CRM was launched, I think that kind of changed the game. It was clear that we were able to track properly. We were able to look at who we were reaching out to, the right personas at the right time, have some sort of a cadence and a sequence, and know like these are the people we want. They're based in southern UK or northern UK. Let's do an event here. Like we could have some data behind it. I think that when I moved into LinkedIn and SaaS, because it was more hardware and Dell, it was really clear that solution selling was the focus. And I started to hear solution selling. Digital transformation was another buzzword we'd heard. And like value engagement and these kind of words that were new to me. And when I think back on digital transformation. We now have that as a persona, like there's heads of digital transformation. And I believe there will be eventually who's your head of AI, who's your CAIO there. And that's who you'll be dealing with because AI is the norm. I think when I was at LinkedIn, though, it was really noisy. It was really noisy trying to stand out from the crowd, and sellers needed to make sure they were different. And I also think sellers have become a bit more smarter and titled like medic was the norm for us, and whereas before it had been Sandler, and even worse, it was Challenger, which was something that never really sat with me as I'm not a confrontational person. I also think then when we look at where we are for selling now, like buyers are way more informed. Um, Even if you think about booking a holiday, years ago I used to go in and sit in front of a travel agent and they'd sit down at their computer and say, what kind of beach do you want? And now you're just going online and booking it. Gartner tell us that 57% of the buying decision is made before they've even spoken to you. So you really have to have incredible websites, an amazing brand, even on LinkedIn. And Rory, I have to commend you and the team. Your marketing is incredible, and you can get a vibe of the culture of your company because I've met your employees through your LinkedIn. I think that's really important because people are watching you and going, okay, this is someone I want to speak to. From the seller's perspective, you've got to be consultative and value-based and really lean into outcomes, which I mentioned earlier on. I think reps need to educate their customers, add insights and guide buyers. You can't just do the hard sell anymore. Like the hard sell, that word's gone. And then I even think back to LinkedIn, there were deals that we would close at 6 figures that I never saw the customer. It was on like a phone with a headset. I actually think that's bizarre. Could not imagine having a call now with someone that wasn't a Zoom. But back, before COVID, no one did it. It just wasn't a thing that we did. I think the advent of AI and revenue intelligence tools have absolutely changed the game. Like there's no doubt about it. There's AI powered coaching platforms like us and AI powered CRMs. I think it's helped us personalize outreach. We can look at a buyer's digital footprint and past interactions and know exactly what the right time is to reach out and what they want to hear, like how they want to be pitched to. I think AI dashboards that I've mentioned have provided like real-time performance insights, which are allowing leaders like me to do a better job of coaching underperforming reps before it's too late and you're at that pip stage and then potentially an exit. I think leaders can also track sales behaviors and not just results. And it's not a I think this rep is struggling or I feel he hasn't got what it takes. That you have actual data to tell you here's where he needs tweaking. And guess what? If you move that B player you can move that B player to an A player. Now, not always, right? Not always, but most of the time you can do that.
Yeah. I think it'd actually be a dream to be a seller right now. Given all the tech landscape and everything, it's wildly different from 5-10 years ago. I remember manually punching numbers into my mobile from like 7 till 7, like going to business parks in the middle of nowhere face to face just to get a 5K contract. And you're like, what am I doing?
It's funny because like the more you think of this, I remember like every time I go to visit a customer in the UK, my boss in Dell and a great man, he go just to have a check outside if there's other logos of offices in that, and you take a picture, and that was like your lead list. You go back, so it was. I don't think people can understand that type, but also it does also come with a lot of problems because it's really busy out there. We speak to companies that have 100+ platforms in their tech stack, which is crazy to me and expensive. So I think consolidation is absolutely key at the moment, and that's something that we talk about in Gong. One platform to rule them all, making sure that we don't have toggle fatigue. That's probably a young thing. Like I don't have that, but that you're doing so many things at once that you can try and stay in the same platform and keep it there. And that's why I think for us, Trumpet is working really well because I don't want to be in a deal review having someone go, here's the pricing I presented, but here's the mutual success plan, and here's the deck I ran, but here's what PS said they were going to do, and here's what I'm like, I can't. It has to be in the one place, and also it's starting to help us see patterns of areas where we can actually help develop the rest better, and link maybe solution engineering and our professional services together because the technical sell. We're bringing in customer success much earlier on in some of our deals because I can see the patterns as we're doing the mutual success plan. the timeline of customer success. I'm like, guys, bring them in earlier on because we've seen it work in other companies or in other deals.
Love that and appreciate that. And thinking maybe about then the buyer experience, the most common word in sales on LinkedIn, personalization. How do you think that that's changed? And we can be more authentic in terms of customer relationships when it comes to personalization. And actually, just on this, I don't know about you, but we always talk about personalization, but reps are never really told like how to personalize. It's like there's not enough depth in it, I personally
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
It's just like go and do it. And then like, what does that mean? You know, like think about different personas, different stages, and you know, every bit of the journey can be personalized. But yeah, I would love to hear your take.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. So this is what I would have thought personalization was when I was a young wee seller. Go on the LinkedIn profile and see that they follow Man United Football Club, and they went to college with somebody's my cousin's friend of a friend who went to that college. Hi, hope this email finds you well. It never does. I see you like Man City, and then it's like that. That was what it used to be. Now, and I think we do it relatively well here. It's really insightful. It's really insightful, thoughtful outreach. So you can look at someone's profile and their company and say, what's the company, what's important to the company? Like reading financial reports, I think, yeah, it's timely. Yeah, you have to maybe take 10 minutes out of your day, but to understand what's important to the company and potentially what outcomes Gong can solve for is absolute gold. And if playing on that, reaching out to a C-suite, it also says you've done your research. From a personalization perspective, I do lean in a lot on common connections, but I'll also look at their page, and I do like outreach as well. I will look at the person's page and say, right, what have they posted? What have they liked? Have they been on a podcast? Have they written a point of view on something, or were they at a particular event? And I will use all of it. And I don't do long outreach because I'm a big believer in if I am on you usually read those outreaches on your phone, especially if they're an in-mail. It's often on a commute or in front of the TV. And if it's more than 2 scrolls, I'm out. And I say this to the team all the time, I'm out. I don't want a big, long, wordy pitch. So I try and do it in 3 like kind of small chunks of personalization. Hey, listen to your podcast. I love your point of view on insert nugget. It sounds like this year your company are focused on based on your financial report. Here's where I think Gong can help. Like really just short and sweet and not a big, long love letter because I don't have time to read that.
Yeah. What's that term? The F-shaped email, where kind of a long line, a short line, and then it finishes. It just it gives you that impression of this is going to finish soon. Whereas if it's
I've
in the
never
inverse,
heard.
if you start short and then end long, it's like, nah, that's too like it's this subconscious kind of
That's
it's the
interesting.
small things. It's those small things. But
That's interesting, and that resonates with me because honestly, even if I open up a Slack and it's really long, I'm like, it's going to take me 5 minutes to read this, and I'm usually like, and again, I am always trying to execute on something really quickly, so brevity is key for me. But I think with outreach, you want to be respectful, but also show that you care about the company. Like you're essentially saying to someone, I'm potentially going to ask you for a lot of money, and I'm also going to ask you to be a partner to me, and I'm also going to ask you to trust me to make a difference in your business. So have the respect to do the research. And I do understand there's outreach at scale, and just make sure you get it right. I've had a few high customer open bracket, close bracket, and I see you're working at open bracket, close bracket, insert company, and they haven't done their due diligence. And I will always reply back and say, hey, just a heads up, because I was an SDR back in the 90s. I'll always give them the heads up very kindly. But I think if you get it right, it also sets a precedent. This person's buttoned up. I'm going to have a good sales cycle here. And it's also, you're representing your company. It's like dating. Best foot forward.
yeah, go on, one shot that first impression. I think also, we always talk about the pandemic. It feels crazy that we still do, but I do think that the world dramatically changed since then, and everyone has become busier. There are more tools that we're all using daily, and like especially because a lot of people are remote, you are back to back. It is nonstop calls all day, so everyone's attention span is finite. Email inboxes are flooded. So when you are outreaching, it needs to be relevant. It needs to be to the point. People don't want the fluff anymore. And you've done something clever and funny. Like, yes, that can work. And creating moments of delight does. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but yeah, I think when people approach you and me, I can guess we're kind of similar. Like, if it's timely, if it's relevant, if it's well thought of or well put together, we're going to take a read. We might not reply straight away, but then it's also up to them to nurture. I think a lot of people just still think add time to a sequence for 2 weeks and move on.
Yeah. I do think though, I do love creativity. Um, we have a great marketing team here. And like, I think at the rugby last year, we had just launched, we were a year into our product Engage, and our marketer was like, there's something here. And then they had Crouch, oh, I'm going to get this wrong. Crouch, pause, engage.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And we got Gong rugby balls made. And like, so they went down incredible. Then she got even more creative and she started to create these mini gongs, which I know you have. And we started to send them out to people, and they just hit really well. And then it was a kind of a joke, when you buy us, you can hit your gong. So I do think some of that can work, but you know it can be expensive. But we're really good at that kind of stuff here. Our marketing team are really creative. If I get something like that and it's rare, I will take the call. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy, but I will take the call because it's a commendable approach.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like, it's about getting a response. It doesn't mean because someone replies they're going to buy. It's, opening up a conversation for now, for future, and starting to build a relationship. And maybe with that in mind, like this shift in how we all engage, how we outreach, how buyers buy. A recent report indicated that 78% of buyers now prefer self-serve journeys, which is obviously painful for United here because, we're sales first. We know the value of a high-performing sales team. And their deals require an average of 12 to 13 touch points. So if you're really interested to hear what strategies or tools would you say are key to support the sales team in this complex buying environment that we find ourselves in?
Wow. Okay, that's a big question. It is complex. It is complex. I think a lot of I touched on a little bit of it earlier on when we were talking about how I can create a high performing team. So do you want me to talk about what we're doing and what we're using to do that?
Yeah, I think that'd be useful.
Okay. I think when I look, like, tech is everywhere. And I don't think there's any reason for a poor selling experience. I think, you need to bring your A game to a customer. So we're in a really competitive space. So I will always say to the team, this is an old time kills deals. So we need to be really informed and have timely follow-ups. So, things like trigger-based engagement. So we have alerts for key signals such as, people visiting our pricing page, demo requests, increases in engagement. We, of course, look at lead scoring. So we prioritize prospects based on level of engagement, intent signals, maybe historical conversation patterns. And we'd also use data to reference past indicators. So we know if we've spoke to them before, we can see it all in Gong, so we can address specific challenges or objections. So really informed and timely follow-ups. I know we talked about personalization, but we look at personalization at scale as well, using those engagement insights. So we track website visits, the content downloads, the email interactions, tailored outreach. So for instance, if we see, and this is an obvious one, if a prospect is downloading a particular white paper, maybe on security or the EU data center or something, we will obviously know to follow up with a case study or some invite if we're having a webinar or an event on that topic on the same theme. We would obviously use all of our AI in here with all the suggestions that we have for our messaging. The predictive analysis, we have an Ask Me Anything within Gong, which will help me craft anything to a customer. I'll say, based on the last 90 days, who should I reach out to? What's the best message? And then I think finally it's the accurate stakeholder mapping and multi-threading, which I mentioned already. You really only have 1 to 2 shots within a company, and you kind of need to get to that right person and get that right person quick, or hopefully a champion. So you need to identify who those key decision makers are, and Trumpet's helping us do that. I think buyer intent can highlight additional stakeholders engaging with content, but sometimes it mightn't be the right person. And then, of course, the tailored messaging by role, like as we just discussed, just differentiate your communication based on the persona. Like I would say, when we were running the assessing buying Trumpet, you were dealing with, and I think I don't know if I'll share the number. You feel free to share it because I know what it was. A lot of people within Gong, and we were having different conversations. So the conversation that you and I had was different to how you were speaking to my rev ops team, how you spoke to my frontline managers, and the A's that you did speak to, because we all had a different driver for trumpet, and we all want the same thing essentially, but we were all potentially looking for different things. They were looking for pricing. I was looking for somebody I thought I could work with. I was looking for a company that had a similar culture to us, and also I wanted a really nice user experience and somewhere that was easy for me to track. So all those kind of things, it's really tricky when you say, but if you get it right and you get a pattern and it becomes that rhythm and that cadence of how you sell and it's done well, you will smash your targets.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But I think the key bit there, not to plug ourselves, but just for anyone listening, is that personalization at every point in the conversation based on who you're speaking to. And ultimately with the right signals, like it's incredible the visibility you can have these days in terms of having the right conversations with the right people at the right time through the right channel, and even with the right bit of content. It is, we're so well informed. It's to be a smart seller is, it's pretty much like table stakes. I guess with that in mind,
there's no excuses, really. There's no excuses, I think, for a poor buying experience. And I'll often say to the team, if you haven't followed up within 3-4 hours with your prospect, the competitor has. Like, you have to give a gold standard buying cycle. You really have to.
Absolutely. Yeah, momentum is key. As soon as that drops, buyers lose interest. There's a new priority that pops up. Every day they wake up with different energy, and you don't want to
and to that Gartner stat as well. They've already done the bulk of their research, so we could be like neck and neck with like 2 other competitors, and that one outreach or that one bad impression, you're off the table before you've even had a chance to become part of like an RFP or pitch your features.
Yeah, and I can say that when Luke from your team had the call with me, he jumped on and said, Rory, I can imagine that you already know lots about Gong, because I know from previous calls that you've used Gong. I know that you probably don't care about the features because you won't be using it day to day. I can speak high level about them. I'm guessing that you want to talk about a couple of things here. Am I right in saying that, pricing, onboarding stuff? And it was just refreshing not to get on a call where someone felt that it was like a rinse and repeat. Hey, right, this is how we do discovery calls. It was just like, I know your business is fast moving. You're too busy to even be on this call kind of thing. And that's not to, play to my role as a founder or anything. It's just thinking about who you're speaking to and what they really care about. So yeah, shout out to Luke there.
Luke was one of our top sellers and does a phenomenal job at his research before a call. So there's a saying we have in here, it takes like 2 hours to sharpen the axe, but like 20 minutes to chop down the tree. So he would be quite thoughtful in his approach. And also we were conscious that there was an existing relationship. So we didn't, he wanted to be respectful of your time because we knew how busy you were. But I think that is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. But I could tell it was kind of his natural approach, which was refreshing, as I mentioned. So yeah, shout out to him. And then maybe with all of that in mind, like we haven't got the tools, or, all the tools disappear tomorrow. Like looking forward, in fact, no, let's not say that. AI continues growing, right? Keeps just growing at this exponential rate, and reps just keep getting better enabled, and everything's done and thought for them. What skills and qualities do you think modern day sellers going to need in the next 12 months? Because I think that in itself is a long time, because tech is moving so fast.
Yeah, I think they're going to need to be really tech savvy. They're going to really need to understand what they're selling, and they're going to need to be able to move pretty quickly and be agile. And I think they need to be more project managers as opposed to, selling a product, because as I said, that as deals get bigger and bigger, we are starting to see more people enter the chat. So you're not just selling to one person, you're selling to probably 5 to 7, and you're also managing all the back end for when they do buy your product. And there's a kind of a post-sales journey. So your SE, your PS, there's legal, there's InfoSec. So the ones that do that really well, I've said this from day one though, you've got to be organized, and you have to have a rhythm. Like if you look at your Mac or whatever you're using, that your tabs, you have your mailbox is tidy. Like if you don't have those foundations, you are going to sink when the tech comes on top of that. So you don't have the basics, you will sink. So I think in a nutshell, be really curious, like stay on top of what's coming out in the business, like understand what products are out there, understand your competitors. So that's really important for us. And understand that you will become, of course, consultative, but you're also a project manager because you're managing multiple stakeholders. The days of when I used to sell, it was me talking to one person, they'd write the check and put it in an envelope. Now there could be a board, there could be a workers' council, there could be, private equity involved. There's just so much. It's become really, really complex. And you want to make your own processes internally, like your own day-to-day cadence in your business, really simple. Like, be all over your book, know your accounts, know your customers, watch their movements, like little things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, plug out for the LinkedIn OGs, like knowing that you've mapped that decision, like you have that decision mapped done, or you can have it done in Trumpet. Someone's left. Why have they left? Is there going to be bigger rifts within the company? Like being really educated and really curious on the company, treating every prospect as if it's going to be the most important prospect that you have in your book, especially your tier ones. Because they're hard to
Agreed.
come, they're hard to come by, those tier ones, and they're the ones that can make or break your year.
100%. I think there's an art to science. Sorry, there's an art to sales, science to sales. But that science used to be about process and methodology, but now I think it's process with enablement through the right technology. I think that's what people need to embrace.
Almost.
I know we're pretty much at time. So the last quick one from me is we've obviously partnered this year. So I'd love to hear why you, the team, the company thought about digital sales rooms and how they could complement the insights provided by revenue intelligence tools like Gong. What led you to kind of coming to that evaluation?
So as we started to get bigger in EMEA, and that large deal review was getting more and more people, and we were getting much better at selling. We were giving tighter pricing. We were looking at, we were talking about like ripping out competitors. We were pitching our professional services and our customer success team, and also giving, infosec early on, and talking about the data center. I was getting a bit frustrated in the room, and with Jerry. So Jerry's my RevOps partner, saying, sorry, when did you send this? Where is this? And it's in Gong, but I'd have to go through loads of emails. And I'd say, well, where's the pricing? I can't see the pricing. And also, I don't like to talk to the reps on the floor because they're really busy. There's nothing worse than a manager coming up and saying, can you tell me where we are with that deal? Or have you sent that pricing yet? I will never ask someone that. I will use Gong. So I didn't want to have to say, look, I can't see the pricing, or there's two different types of pricing. So I said to Jerry, there's something here. We need to look at a digital sales room. So I will say it was led by our global head of RevOps, a guy called Sean Kilpack, an absolute master of his craft. And he decided to look at a lot of digital sales rooms. So I can't really, I don't want to be fair. I don't want to say who they are, but you could probably guess. There was a lot in the mix.
There's a few, yes.
Okay, well, there was a lot in the mix. So we really did our due diligence, and we had a long list of requirements under probably about 7 headers. So there was collaboration features, obviously, integration and compatibility, which we needed to have within Gong, customization and flexibility, because not, again, that one size fits one. Could we say, oh, we need this for us? We also wanted analytics and reporting, and that was more from me. I wanted to be able to say, like, who's using it, how often, is it impacting win rate, or what are we seeing? Let me know if this is driving the needle for us or moving the needle. User experience is really important. Again, I talk about there's so much software out there. I wanted something that the team wanted to be and that they wanted to use. Of course, I had then the CISO team with security and compliance, and then finally, cost and scalability. So under those 7 headers, we did like really deep due diligence on all the companies we looked at. I think there was like 5, and then we moved 2 or 3 into kind of a pilot. And by doing all this, we were able to look at what was the best for our business. And I will tell you that, it was you by a mile. And you had also been a master multi-threader. And I think this. I remember, and I did smile. It's like, it was probably 3, maybe 2 years ago, with to me, Jerry and Dave. So Dave would have been a champion of Trump, but he's a frontline manager here. It's like, hey folks, I'm in Dublin for a meeting, or I'm in Dublin next week for a meeting or an event or something. Any chance I could swing by the office and take you guys to lunch? And I remember thinking, like, I wonder, is he really in Dublin? but yeah, well, let's go for lunch. And that was an amazing way for you to, I mean, you actually came into Gong. And I remember you shared screen and you talked about the product and you were so passionate about it that when we were doing the assessment, that was one of the things for me, because I do think people buy from people as well. And the LinkedIn presence too, right? You had an amazing brand. But I think by combining Trumpet with what we're doing, like with AI and the revenue intelligence that we're leading, the sales teams have a 360 degree view of the buyer journey. It creates, data driven, personalized and engaging sales process. And for us, it's leading to higher conversion rates and faster deal cycles. And what more could you want?
Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. That's there's nothing more incredible to hear when you've
Off the record, were you really in Ireland to at an event?
think I was back then. No, I wasn't. That time I wasn't.
Okay. And like, I would never have asked you then because we didn't have that relationship. Obviously, I've known you
Yeah.
years now. But I remember thinking, good for him. Like, good for him. He's out there. He's hustling. He's,
Yeah.
you didn't show up on the doorstep, but, it was pretty close.
Yeah. I'll be honest, and Sean might hear this. I actually tried it with Sean as well. I was like, I'll fly to SF. Yeah, I know you guys are there next week.
Wow.
And he was like, no.
That's incredible, though. That says it all, right? Like, if I'm willing to get on a plane to come over and look you in the white of the eye and pitch my product, like, I'm all in then. I'm all in.
And I think it's important for sellers to hear, because like we are an asynchronous tool, but the world is not now asynchronous. Like there is, we still meet up. I think the best technology, the ones that get the best results, it is about that partnership. It's not just point solutions anymore, or anything like that. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I know that we've eaten up into your time here. So I want to wrap up and say, Lesley, a huge thank you. It's incredibly, it's amazing to get you onto the podcast. It's amazing to hear about your experience and be able to share this with the world. And we're looking forward to continuing working with Gong. But thank you for the time.
You too, Rory. Listen, best luck with the year. I know there's a lot of exciting things afoot, and I will stay close to your LinkedIn posts.
Likewise.